Hey everyone, Dank's Dad here, and I'm finally back with another Universus deck profile. The new solo leveling experience bundle, as well as Guilty Gear, has really got me amped up, and I've been enjoying sort of taking the game back in a more competitive stride a lot more now, and I'm really excited for Nationals in February. But in the meantime, here, we do have this Sung Jinwoo E rank Hunter deck coming at you first and foremost. So, Shadow Monarch skill tree really reinvigorates this character, and there are a lot of reasons why I think that he functionally is much superior to the Assassin skill tree Jinwoo that we got to play with last year. So, level up, Tenacious, you can remove a card from your hand or stage with XP, and at the start of your end phase, you'll level up. So, pretty great. Now, what does leveling up get us? First and foremost, we have Shadow Extraction. Once per turn form, you can try to play a Shadow Shift attack from your discard pile. Awesome. So right out the gate, Jinwoo is a 7-hander after the first turn of the game, being able to find these attacks as long as he plays a consistent number of them, and just keep building out his board state of shifted in backups. And even though they're unique, he gets some selection in being able to build them back. And as you'll see from their own text and other abilities on Jinwoo, your opponent is going to be pretty pressed to get rid of them. Next up, Shadow Preservation. This is the level 2. Enhance once per turn. This attack gets -2 damage for each shadow card in your stage and card pool. Fantastic ability. You do get to try and mitigate a bunch of that early damage coming your way, especially if you're going first. You'll have this online for your opponent's first attacking turn, and probably are going to be able to say -4 damage to an opponent's attack, which is just really nice. And later in the game, this can scale up, but more importantly, it's going to be the ability that gets you there along with the 30 health pool. Shadow Exchange is the level 3 ability, and this is where I think the character really shines. Jinwoo has Enhance, sacrifice 1 backup, draw 1 card. This attack gets +2 or -2 speed. So +2 or -2 speed is big game. That's where you want to be. And being able to recycle the backups is huge. You can send any one of them back to the discard just to replay it the next turn with Jinwoo's form, which is really nice. And it's a great way to just sink your opponent in card advantage. And of course, being on death and having access to tools that are on infinity, like Unyielding Destruction, Jinwoo can take advantage of the fact that he functionally becomes a 8, maybe 9-hander later in the game when Shadow Exchange is online and Shadow Extraction is going to be constantly producing value. Last but not least, we have Monarch's Domain, and this level 4 ability is the way that Jinwoo can turn the corner and get the game ending quickly. So this has Enhance. Your attack gets +X damage. X equals the number of shadow cards in your stage and or card pool +2. So this is pretty nice. Being able to get +2 damage on everything is pretty good just at face value. And you'll see a lot of these shift attacks, in fact, all of the ones that are from Jinwoo's kit, do start with this shadow text. So even before they build in, you're going to be playing attacks and ramping this up to 3 or 4 just by continuing to play more and more of these attacks. So your later attacks in the string get more lethal. Very nice. So all in all, this character is pretty strong, but I think that this symbol combination, along with the cards he has access to, really make him pop. So Chivalrous Charge, first and foremost, I think is the strongest card out of the solo leveling experience bundle aside from Jinwoo. I'm not going to have time to read all of these, so bear with me. But this is functionally a 4 diff, 3 low for 7 with a 1 low block, which is pretty good. You do, unfortunately, have to give your opponent a card if they are holding none. But if they're holding no cards, you can just choose not to play this attack or just not play the blitz, hit them for 4, and be just fine. So there's no real downside here. It's just free damage as long as you are, playing with your wits about you. But where this card really comes into its own is when it shifts in as Egress, who is unique shadow, also XP. And his big thing is just this static ability on him, giving all of your attacks +1 speed and all of your rivals' attacks -1 speed is messed up. And along with Jinwoo's enhances, we'll look back here at Shadow Exchange. You can see that this is Rodan at home, but you're drawing even more cards somehow. Egress also can eventually come back to your hand, replay. Just incredible. Really, really great. And this is the only fortive, though, since this deck is focused on trying to play fewer large attacks and trying to draw more of these actions, these backups, and other cards. Since Jinwoo always has the attack, we can get away with this. Unyielding Destruction, though, this is the real key piece. This card is going to let us keep stages small, and as Jinwoo's backups build out, we've seen it with Hanji, but opponents are forced to play into this asymmetry where if they don't have answers or they don't have an alternative resource, they fall behind immediately. So we can side this out in bad matchups. We can just go lower attack count, but for the most part, this card is going to be saying that Jinwoo wins into meta threats that aren't on the backup plan, and is particularly nice against string decks like Bridget or Mikasa that need a big stage to go wide. Bear Bite coming in next. Just a nice throw. This is great with Shadow Monarch for forcing the damage through to end the game. Your rival has to block it, or they're sacrificing their stage. And once this one builds in, it's giving -3 damage to attacks that aren't coming at it, which is pretty potent. Just being able to use tank to give another -3 is really nice. And just all in all, very rock solid card. Falling Titans is here as a one-of, as a bit of a win condition to speed things up against some of the heavier decks. You can go get Falling Titans with another attack we have not gotten to yet, Duplicitous Recollection, by building in the Zeke's Dream becoming real, and then using the enhance to add it to your hand during the attack. So we can get around our low attack count by saying, hey, I can pick up an arbitrary number of these Falling Titans and have the tools to pass them even on something like a 7. So Falling Titans is really nice. Just is a way to punch through sort of those late game board stalls where an opponent is trying to fight through unyieldings and build out. This is your way to match their pace and answer if you're forced to, and they're holding Filled with Doubts or other cards to try to stop unyielding. You can get them with this. Rage Riot is next. As a 6 diff, we're not inclined to run too many of these, but it is nice to have when we need it. Once again, this is pseudo card pool clear, since if your opponent takes the hit, this transforms. And Iron Former Hunter coming in, just giving your attacks more damage, and if it's attacked, takes away your rival's health. Now, logically, one might think, what if someone just doesn't attack Iron? Then that's great. This gives you another guaranteed sacrifice to make for Jinwoo's ability, letting you do that. You can get another -2. It's lots of good stuff. And notably as well, you can also use these backups to level up since they do have XP and they are in your stage. So this does at worst represent going +1 on a card, which is very nice. And of course, if they do attack Iron, you can just sacrifice him, get your card, and your opponent is just out of health. So very, very nice card to have, just not in huge quantities. Smiling Titan Attacks is another really fun one. Making your rival spend a momentum, of course, is not small peanuts. It is relevant, it is good. But on the back, this form synergizes really, really well with Shadow Extraction, or Shadow Exchange, excuse me, since when your rival's first attack must attack this backup, Jinwoo can basically abort the attack with Shadow Exchange, draw a card, and really make the opponent's turn clunky. Especially if you have a card like Egress out that puts a lot of pressure on the opponent and makes them feel like they need to remove it. Smiling Titan Attacks can protect that and just create all of these attacks that are required to go at your other backups and not notably your character. This also plays really nicely into some of the backup hate that we do have in this meta. Something like Violent Animus Shot, just as an example, doesn't play super nice with this, since if your opponent has to attack this, they can use Animus Shot to remove another backup, maybe make you discard. But even then, they still aren't going to be able to get through necessarily. Jinwoo can still have ways around it. You do run the full playset of Filled with Doubt down here, so you can sort of get the blowout on that and create a situation where this backup doesn't die. Suddenly, 6 health turns to 1. This is still up, threatening another sacrifice later. And with a card like Duplicitous Recollection, we can go fetch this up and build it back in anytime. This card did not see a lot of play prior just because we didn't have a great density of backups or shift attacks that we could just build in for free. Nine Titans, of course, was excellent, but we had more reliable ways to get that into play with Hanji, the character card, and the Beast Titans Rock Barrage. But building out here, we actually can go fetch unique backups and shift attacks. And for Jinwoo, building in the Smiling Titan attacks over and over and over again can be a good way to lock out mid-range decks and help you, once again, solidify your board and defensive state. Last attack, Warhammer Titan attacks, another great target for Duplicitous. I mean, not much to say about this one. Sees lots of current metagame play. Now that we can, just play this without fear of Sweeping Daggers, building it in Transformed is really nice. Stun 1, good. Checking a 4, very good. And then once it comes in, this is giving your attacks a damage, or if you sacrificed a backup to something like Shadow Exchange, or one of your foundations to this card itself, you can start churning out 1/1. You also are ideally going to have fewer than your foundations than your opponent a lot of the time, since you're going to be using these resources to invest into backups and these high diff attacks. So once you build this in, it is a way that you can play catch up if you don't find unyielding. So really, really nice card to round out the attack package. For actions, we have Filled with Doubt, the classic, does the job. And then we have Grinding Overtime, which is Jinwoo's new action from this experience bundle. So you can get a fast level up, very nice. But if you remove it from your hand to pay the cost for leveling up, it comes in as this High Orc Soldier, which is actually really incredible. Getting a shadow card into your stage is awesome. This also is another card that you can remove, so theoretically this can get you 2 cards to level up over 2 turns, which is nothing to sneeze at. If it's removed from your stage to level up that way, with the response you can gain 2 health. Certainly not nothing. Has Breaker, great in block mod. And having this card early on, especially on turn 1, just letting you build out an additional resource while you level up is so strong. So Grinding Overtime, real all-star, great new card from the experience bundle. Then for our set of backups, Titan Under Orders is our non-unique backup. If you wanted to go with a Rock Barrage package, this is probably the best backup you can get. -3 damage, losing 3 stamina, not nothing. Forces your opponents to either attack this backup or once again waste attacks, really nice. Willie Tiber plays really well with your low foundation count, another backup that forces your opponent to interact with it or get them snowballed in advantage. Hence, the name of the deck. A lot of these cards I'm talking about, you can see the theme here, and Willie Tiber does all that, provides a decent block zone, and since this deck is scared of getting some of the resources removed, a lot of these lows pay some respect to Earthbreaker, Fillet Fling, and other cards of the like. Sean Gilmore in here. This could go down to a 1-of, but reasonable card here to improve checks. Another backup that, your opponent is forced to interact with. And since Jinwoo can turn these backups into cards later, it feels less bad if there's a chance for your opponent to blow it up. So, not the worst to get this card into play. And then last, we have this Singleton Scumbug here. Having these 0 block mods can really help mess with your opponent's math. And this is a card that is hard to interact with outside of Animus Shot. And if your opponent does attack it, once again, it's giving you 1 card, often 2. The 6 stamina is also no joke and requires a real investment to punch through. So, not nothing. And if this card stays on the board, the ability to Fate Seal your opponent every single attack or to confirm your own checks later in the game is really, really ridiculous. And we haven't had a lot of great characters who are playing all attuned and building this in that have been experimented with much. this Ronan guy for some reason. People aren't using Hunter's Ally to build in Scumbug. I can't explain why. I'm not smart enough for it. This video won't cover that, sadly. But Scumbug in this deck is just going to be a total workhorse. And by, once again, forcing your opponent to interact with you on your terms, you get away favorably. Now we go to the Foundation package. We do need to have our zeros here, and we're sticking to Syndicate Target and Botans, which for death are the best rate you can get at 0. Syndicate Target checking the 6 is a big deal, and of course, more 0 blocks, always welcome. Forcing Surrender here is our respect to Bridget to interact with Fillet Fling, and also to interact with the variety of decks playing Massive Mutant Machine and Equipment Heist. Surrender can take care of those, and is pretty good at it. Also, not the worst to clear your own Filled with Doubts on defense, help your progressive. -1 speed at home can do the job. Fateful Decision, great defensive tool. Item menu is our sort of required payment to experience to have enough in our deck for Jinwoo to function, and being able to replace itself is really nice. Death Rattle is one that I'm pretty interested in trying. Just being able to have a way to win the game without your opponent getting hit is good, but this card is sort of a liability otherwise. We need the high block zone at the 2-diff, and I'm not sure what could go in the spot, but I do think that this is the weakest foundation in the deck. So playing a different 2 difficulty foundation that blocks high and has some other useful effect could be really good in the main board. But Death Rattle has a spot for now. Great with Jinwoo's cards for just forcing that pressure, pushing through extra damage, and, just burn that can't be interacted with trivially is nice. We have the loot box here, another experience card, another low block, and this just builds you out stage earlier in the game when you're more likely to need it. Fun trick here can be to use this to get in an unyielding. After building out some cards, you can sacrifice the extra card you built if you don't want it in your hand. Pretty nifty. Knight's Rest here is just great in the backup deck. You can commit some of your backups like Egress, like Willie Tiber, where you don't so much care about playing their Enhance over and over again or their response, and you just want to get this extra re-ready for -2 speed. This is Life's sort of version of incompatible quirks at home, and we'll happily play it since we're playing pink cards. Singleton Moment of Normalcy, this could be a 2 of, but just having at least access to this card is so good. Dramatic Exit, another great unique foundation, and splitting these 1 and 1 seems like better than playing 2 of each, but that could be something that we do if we want to move on from the Death Rattles. Desperate Struggle here is our respect for Deku and other decks that might be trying to put a prohibitive amount of pump on their attacks. Pretty solid interaction. And then meeting Hanji, getting us that extra draw in the early game and letting us loot away our hand. Or if we are low hand, you sure just do get to draw extra cards. The discard 2 is notably not a part of the cost on meeting Hanji. So you are able to just draw 1 or even 2 extra cards if you go empty-handed and you are sure your opponent doesn't have a way to interact with this. So this can be a way to net even more extra cards in the early game and sort of get your engine going. Very nice 3-diff, very good. Last we go to the sideboard, and we have more Desperate Struggles for Deku. We have Always Cool, another pretty nice card to have. But we have one all-star here, and that is Food. And this is the foundation that I think is probably most sort of in line for those Death Rattle spots for me right now. But once again, there are plenty of other high block options in, on Symbol for Death or Attune for Life or All that could fit. But Food is just incredible in the matchups where it's good. So first Enhance, flip, remove 1 non-attack card from your rival's card pool, gain 2 health. This is amazing text, and it works on both turns. If your opponent is putting face down cards in their card pool, say they flip something with Bridget, nom nom nom, I ate it, it's gone, I gained 2, haha, nice fillet fling. If they are playing Equipment Heist, nom nom nom, it's gone. Haha, I gained 2. Good try. You get to play 8 forcing surrenders. And just having that consistent interaction against these strategies that are as powerful as they are because they are so difficult to interact with is really huge. And I think sets death apart from other symbols as being one that can deal with these. If your rival is playing other cards that are meant to sit in the card pool or do things, food also can cover them. But if they're not clogging their pool, you can put speed on all of your attacks. So if you open with something like a Rage Riot, make it 5 speed with food, sacrifice, make it 7, or duplicitous attack, you make it 8 speed, you stun something, your opponent's in this really hard spot where they need to block that attack. And if they don't, then you can keep ramping the speed, keep pushing the damage. And if they do, maybe you're going to be healing too. And in a deck with so much damage reduction and so many ways to make it hellish for your opponent to attack your character, just that incidental health is much better than it looks. So, food here, I think, is a format all-star right now. Has been like pretty reasonable tech since, I think, Girl Power and Godzilla meta, where I thought it was very nice in all Rodan. But it continues to be really good, and now I think even the decks that aren't super interested in having that 1 speed on every single attack to make their whole plan unblockable really get a lot out of this card. So even if you don't like Jinwoo, this whole deck idea doesn't work for you, I would highly suggest trying to play food in your decks that are playing on Symbol and seeing how you fare against these mutant machines that are coming in, these equipment heists. And if, with this sort of 8x package of food enforcing surrender, if they're still able to punch through, because quite frankly, the odds are ever not in their favor. Anyway, that is all I have to say for you guys today. Thank you very much for watching. And next time, we're going to return to chat about a Guilty Gear character, Happy Chaos. Till then.